and we don't even it's so insidious that we don't even realize it when we see it. And
Mm.
so when you compile all of these different, when someone's dealing with racism and sexism and ableism and ageism and all these things at once, it is real marginalization. And we think about how much we owe to our elders. They're the ones that laid the foundation for what we're doing today. And it is it is a real obligation for us to honor our elders and care for them for what they did for us. And that is kind of what grounds me. That is my North Star.
A P. Yeah. They Mr. Owe me like Aaron, what happened? I can't go backwards. It's my new chapter. Move to Atlanta, them trappers and scammers. I pray for my youngins. You talking about practice? On the track, I go ape like bananas.
Peace, beautiful family. This is Dr. Walter Hidalgo, and this is the Know Thyself podcast. The Know Thyself podcast utilizes the metaphor of the shelf in order to extrapolate the self. And the way we do that is we invite guests to come in and share something about themselves. And before I introduce my guest, I'm excited, because she's so dope. www.knowthyself.tv. That's the website where you'll find information on the workshops, coaching, as well as where you can get a copy of my book, Beyond the Four Walls, The Rise of Ministry and Spirituality of Hip Hop. And soon to come will be the second book. It's coming, Dr. Mo. Guerrilla Catholic. Get ready, yo. Something different. I'm going to hit him at the head with this one. The other thing we always do is I would like to shout out a group of individuals. And today I want to give a big shout out to all my medical doctors, yo. That's a ministry, yo. That's a very special. You talk about mind, body, and soul all in one. I want to give a big shout out to people who don't give up on themselves. The only way you'll learn is to fail, but we never fail. We just learn. It's beautiful. And it's, what a blessing to be a part of it, because I got somebody here that I respect, that I admire, and that I'm so proud of. Dr. Monique Hedmann Maxey. Did I say it right, yo?
That's right. Actually, it's Monique Hedmann Tika now. I recently got married.
Oh, here we go. So hence the reunion has begun. That's beautiful. Dr. Mo, what a blessing, yo. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful thing to be reconnected with you here today. And thank you for remembering me and not forgetting about me. And, I've been following you, you're following me. And it's just so beautiful for us to get reconnected after all these years, just doing what we do.
That's right. And I say, Dr. Mo, always the beauty of getting older is you get to live your life twice. So It's beautiful when I see people that I've known for a while. It's kind of like a journal. You're just stepping back and then seeing because someone told me, joy is connecting all the dots. Yeah. So I always want to contextualize things. So Dr. Mo, if we were to step back into a time machine, to go back in time to a younger Mo, what would we see? What would we hear? What are like the first memories that come to mind? What are the dynamics look like? What you're willing to share? Because you're originally from?
So I was born in Houston, Texas, but I grew up in LA. When people ask me where I'm from, I'm going to tell them I'm from LA. However, I lived in New York for almost 10 years, and I spent my most formative years of my adulthood in Harlem and Washington Heights, mostly in Harlem. And so I still very much as I'm from LA, I still consider myself a New Yorker also.
That is so dope. That's right. Oh, so you're bi-coastal with it. You went to, I always kept it East Coast. But I love the West. It has something, it's very special out there. And because I guess the question for me is, what was cooking in the kitchen that took Mo to Dr. Mo, right? Talk about that journey. Where'd you go to school? What did you study? Um, yeah.
I always, I have health professionals in my family, so I always wanted to do something related to health, and in college, I was wilding out a little bit, so the medical school path wasn't going to work for me coming out of college. But then I discovered public health, and it seemed like such a cool field to me. And that's what landed me in New York. So I ended up doing my master's in public health at Columbia. And my focus was in aging because I've always had loved being around my elders and always felt it was important to take care of our elders. And that was the focus of my public health education. But as soon as I got into public health school, I realized that everybody that I looked up to that was having the level of impact that I hoped to have was a doctor. So that's why I decided to go back and go to medical school to become a physician.
Yeah, and one thing about you that's dope is that you focused on geriatric medicine, if I'm not mistaken. And when I was in high school, I was in a health and science magnet program, and I thought about becoming that doctor. You're what we in our world consider the doctors, and then it's us, right? But I remember one of my internships was at a geriatrics clinic.
Really?
Oh yeah, see, this we're learning much. It's beautiful, and I gotta tell you, it was one of the most very interesting, informative, and beautiful things, from learning how to do bedding, to hygiene, to socialization. I mean, I guess I was more from the psychological, more social dynamic, but that was just to get our feet wet and to understand that. And of course, their conditions by default was part of the conversations anyways, because you would ponder what's going on, why are you in a wheelchair, eventually they'll share anyways. It's also where I learned to knit too. But it's interesting, Mo, because our elders are probably we don't talk enough about how they're just as marginalized, probably the most, especially the pandemic, how that revealed that, when you think about the sociological dynamics of elders that live in high-rise buildings, and their accessibility, during the pandemic was really troublesome. So, I mean, I could see that. How, I don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
When we think about certain social ills, we think about racism and sexism, right? We don't talk about ageism, and that is the one social ill that is just accepted that we don't even talk about, and we don't even it's so insidious that we don't even realize it when we see it. And so when you compile all of these different, when someone's dealing with racism and sexism and ableism and ageism and all these things at once, it is real marginalization. And we think about how much we owe to our elders. They're the ones that laid the foundation for what we're doing today. And it is it is a real obligation for us to honor our elders and care for them for what they did for us. And that is kind of what grounds me. That is my North Star.
So I got to ask, what elder or elders impacted you, whether it's family or from a scholastic or historical perspective? It could be anyone. I'm really speaking in general.
It's so funny you ask, because, when we were thinking about the objects, there was one picture I thought of sharing as my object, but I actually have a different object. But the picture I was going to share is of a lady named Miss Ora D. Johnson. Ora D. Johnson, she was older woman from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And, my mother was a single mother, so she was taking care of up until I was, a little bit older. She did get married later, but for a long time, it was just me and her. And Miss Johnson took care of me when my mom was at work. And that was she was my friend. She was my best friend, 75-year-old woman, and me, 5 years old. And like, she'd pick me up from school. I would stay with her. She would cook for me. And like, she was my best friend. And I learned so much from her. I remember, she would say things like, if you cut your arm, your blood is red. If I cut my arm, my blood is red too, and she just had like pearls like that. And even as a child, I could see what she dealt with. I call it triple jeopardy, old black woman. Right. And me just being with her, I would see like the different struggles that she dealt with, just carrying all of that, and just all of the things that she carried, everything that she had seen growing up in the South, it back in the day, and how she carried that with her, and was affected by all of that. And so when someone asks me about like what inspires me, or what drives me, I always think of Miss Johnson. There were many other elders that I came in contact with, as a child, but she's the one that like, really, really inspired me. And I think, like, she's like a guardian angel for me, like in my current journey. That's the one that's the lady I think of.
And I think it now, switching gears a little bit, it speaks to how we met, how we intersect. This like call for justice, servitude, of being present to the voiceless, if you will, in all aspects, because our body talks to us too in different ways, right? I met you through, as I've met many people throughout my life, hip hop. You were part of the hip hop public health initiative, right? Talk to us about that. Where are we with that? Yeah.
So, me being as a teenager, like I remember the first, I think the song that made me fall in love with hip hop was Mr. Wendell by Arrested Development.
Yeah.
I was very young, and I just that song was so profound to me. It was like a sociology lesson. And I fell in love with hip hop early. And that was me, growing up in LA. So, we had our West Coast hip hop, but I started to really, really diversify my taste and understanding of hip hop when I was a teenager. I had the, remember like they used to have the dollar like deal. It was like UMG. I forget which, but you would get like pay $1 and get like 10 or 15 CDs.
Oh yeah.
I forget what it was called, but that's how I got introduced to like, just Big and Jay-Z and Pac and Wu-Tang, and like so I really learned about hip hop when I was a teenager. And while I was in school, like hip hop was my teacher. It was my professor. Like I feel like I learned so much about life and society and politics from these CDs that I was getting, and over time, I have always loved poetry, and really started to delve into spoken word poetry, in high school and college, and then overall that started to just evolve into me becoming like an MC and being more comfortable like writing lyrics and becoming an MC. Yeah. And then when I graduated from public health school, I met my mentor, Dr. Williams, who started Hip Hop Public Health in collaboration with Dougie Fresh. And it just made so much sense to me. It was like, hip hop is, it is like Chuck D says. Chuck D is one of our advisory board members of Hip Hop Public Health. He talked about hip hop being the CNN of the ghetto, right? And it just allows you to talk about what's happening on the ground, what's happening in our communities. And hip hop public health made so much sense to me. It was like, this is what hip hop is for. It is meant to be a healing force in our communities. It is, and so what I love about hip hop public health is that it's taking hip hop back to its origins. Hip hop is not supposed to be, this tool of pathology. It's right. It in so many ways, it has perpetuated, unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy habits, when it has the power of hip hop is can do so much to heal us and advance us. And so I went from being a staff member for Hip Hop Public Health, delivering programs in a community, making songs, making music, to now being a member of the board of Hip Hop Public Health and having some real say in the future direction of the organization. So I'm still very much involved. And my dream is to bring Hip Hop Public Health, which is based in New York City. My goal and my dream is to bring it here to the West Coast and to tailor it, to these different, the West Coast culture of hip hop, Southern culture, just to expand it, beyond New York City. So that, that's my goal. But Hip Hop Public Health is still growing. It's had international reach, and I'm still very much involved.
Yeah, because as Karis once said, what is hip hop? Higher infinite power, healing our people.
That's right.
This is what you're doing. I want to switch it up and talk real briefly. You were a contributor to the book Negligent by Design. Talk to us about that.
So I want to give a shout out to my friend, my mentor, my sister, Dr. Vanessa Grubbs. She is a nephrologist, and this is her second book, Negligent by Design, where she talks about just how anti-Black racism has been built into our medical system, and what we need to do to counter that. I first met Dr. Grubbs at a protest in LA. The protest was at the Kaiser Medical School, and they had unfairly fired a Black professor because she kept it a little bit too real, talking about racism in the medical system. And I was there in the capacity, I was a leader of the union. I was a resident physician at the time. I was regional vice president of the union. And so I was there, to talk about that. And then she was there. She has an organization called Black Doc Village. And the purpose of her organization is to address unfair treatment of Black trainees in medicine and unfair dismissal and reasons for that. And so she invited me to join the board of this organization. And then she was like, oh, by the way, my clinic is hiring. So she hired me here. This is why I'm here in Oakland, California. She invited me to join as a staff physician at Baywell Health, formerly known as West Oakland Health, which is a clinic that was, the Black Panthers helped to found this clinic in Oakland almost 60 years ago. It is the last only federally qualified health center in the state of California that centers Black health. And so, she was the director of adult medicine. She stepped back to focus on this book, Negligent by Design, and to focus on her leadership of her nonprofit, Black Doc Village. And in last month, I took over as director of adult medicine for Baywell Health.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm kind of bouncing around, but I started to think of how, like you said, you're spent time in LA, like you're an LA girl, and now you're in Oakland, right? And that's a whole kind of different world a little bit. But Oakland is going through some tough sociological condition, and even San Francisco right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure having a base there, with the Hip Hop Public Health and also with what's happening in the medical field is so necessary because of so many conditions that are really making that. I have a lot of friends. I didn't know. I forgot you in Oakland because I would do presentations in California almost yearly in the summertime in a place called Los Altos, California. Are you familiar with that area?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I want us to go to this part of the program because we're not being programmed, we're being liberated here, and that is we invite guests to come and share something that comes from their shelf. I'm really curious, Dr. Mo, what are you going to share about yourself to us?
Okay. Well, this is my item. It's actually a set. It's like one item, but actually comes in two. So this is the item. And kind of see.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm trying to show it. So there's a whole story behind this. As a medical student, in 2019, I went with one of my other mentor. Her name is Dr. Alicia Moreland Kapuya. I was a fourth-year medical student. She has a foundation called the Kapuya Foundation that has a clinic in Luanda, Angola. And she took me and two other medical students with her to, on a medical mission, to see patients in Angola. And first of all, I like this because I'm a Gemini, okay? So I had
So is my daughter.
Yeah. But that was first of all, 2019 was the year of the return.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know that the first slaves that were brought to the United States came from Angola in 1619. Right. Yeah. And I went there 400 years later in 2019 on this medical mission. Mm-hmm. And that year was the first year I was introduced to the idea of trauma-informed care. Mm-hmm. And also the concept of population level trauma. Now, Angola, went through a civil war and is in the process of rebuilding. They're rebuilding the country. They're getting rid of all the corrupt officials and politicians and everything. But Dr. Moreland Kapuya introduced me to the idea of the fact that the whole population is traumatized from the civil war. So how do you heal a population that is traumatized? And I thought about I chose this particular item because now that I'm working as a physician here in Oakland, I see some of that same population level trauma here in Oakland. You've got folks that I get so many patients that to talk about how they lost their children to violence, or they've lost so many different family members. They've been displaced because of gentrification. They've been priced out of the area that they've known their whole life, and they can't even afford to live here anymore. There's people that are homeless, or just like losing their homes left and right. People are losing insurance. They don't have enough money to get healthy food, and so trauma-informed care has to, that is a concept in medicine. And it's so very, very important to like the work that we do in hip hop public health, the work that I'm doing here in the clinic. So that's why I chose this, because that's what I practice, is just being mindful of what is the collective trauma that we share, and what does it take to pursue collective healing.
That's right. Yeah. And that's true. And I think that's why, like, it has to be that way when we think about like Alcoholics Anonymous, how it's done, group settings, how many hip hop and therapeutic organizations do things. The cipher is always in a communal setting, where two or more gathered. I read somewhere, you know what I mean? I never asked you this because, and let me know if I'm being intrusive, because, we're living in some interesting times, aren't we? It's always interesting, but a lot is going on in the world. I guess because you're a physician, but you wear other hats, and I get the feeling community is very important to you, hence your connection with the elderly, and that sort of implies the importance of intergeneration culture. I mean, all that stuff. How do you maintain your sanity? How do you maintain your spirituality? Because you do a lot, right? And we're getting older. I'll be, by the time this comes out, 44 in April, right? Like, it's crazy. Time's going by fast. So, when I was a child, I did childish things, and all that kind of comes to play. So I'm curious to know, as a physician, as someone who's doing the work that she does, how do you kind of guard your soul?
That's an amazing question. I'm going to answer your question, but I want to bring up one more thing
Yeah.
to tie this. So, as I mentioned, I got married in 2024. My husband is from Haiti, and I have learned yes, I have learned so much about Haiti in this time. And when we're talking about population level trauma, this is something else that we can talk about in terms of how Haiti is being affected. My husband and I started a nonprofit called Trinity International Community Association. And the purpose of that organization is to promote education, health, and art for school children in Haiti. And we're actually working with a Catholic church here in Oakland called St. Columba that has a ministry called Hope for Haiti Education. So we're collaborating to support, because the children are the future of everything that's going on in Haiti right now. We have to invest in the children of that country because they are the ones that will move Haiti forward. And we have to continue to invest in their future, right? And so my husband is a musician. He's an amazing guitar player, piano player. And so when you're talking to me about how I stay sane, we make music together. I sing, I'm a lyricist.
So
Me and my husband are making music together. We got some dope stuff coming. I'm gonna have to share it with you.
Please,
We got a couple of dope songs actually, and we're just kind of like making it one by one. But like music is what keeps me grounded. Like I can't do anything without music. Every like if I'm working out, if I'm in the car, that's what so that's what keeps me grounded. My relationship with God. I talk to God all the time. Those two, like my family, my friends, that's what just keeps me going. Knowing that the work that I'm doing, I'll be tired. I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
It's exhausting. Okay. But when you know what you're doing is of value and is making real impact in other people's lives, that's where the energy comes from. That's what keeps you going. It holds me together. And I just feel grateful that I'm in a position after all, to even do this work. And it's so important to just know, recognize that we all have gifts and talents and skills. And it is the greatest honor to be able to use those, to use that for the greater good to benefit other people. And so that's what keeps me grounded.
I love that. I love that you said that, because my follow-up question to that is, which I think is so important. I ask this to all my guests. Somewhere out there's a little Mo in the making, a little Dr. Mo. I don't know. With all the stuff that you do, what's words of advice you can give these young people, Dr. Mo, who might follow your path or just are looking for that advice?
Mm-hmm. I would just say, like you said, bet on yourself. Don't ever give up on yourself. If something is calling you, go to it. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Like whatever you're being called to do, follow it, do it. That would be my advice. And just don't ever give up on yourself, and follow your calling, and period. That would be nice.
A woman. And when my young people, they would come up to me and be like, "Oh, Walter, Dr. Walter, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Get lost." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Get lost in the books, get lost in the world, so you can find yourself." Isn't that exploration that you're gonna find yourself? Like God gave us this big real estate right here to figure it out, and the fact that we have time to do it, oof, what a blessing and an honor. So before we close, I want to say, Dr. Mo, so proud of you, honored to know you. The work that you do is not overlooked. I can honestly say this in public. that Black women have been the most impactful humans for me on this earth. And it's like, damn, yo, they are an unstoppable force, yo. And I see that in you, and it's beautiful, and I'm honored and grateful. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you for being here with us. So
Thank you for recognizing the Black girl magic. It's a thing.
yo,
And I have to just thank people like my mother, like Miss Johnson, like the other like amazing Black, like Dr. Grubbs, like all of these amazing Black women that have poured into me and believed in me, and all other folks that have just believed in me. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, the positivity that you're bringing, for even having a platform like this, just to spread the good word. And it really is it's an honor to be back here in this space with you after all these years.
and to God be the glory, yo. We closed with this quote, Dr. Mo, and it comes from from an anonymous person, and it reads as such. Empowered women don't compete. They collaborate, they create, and they conquer.
Oh, I like that. You have to share that one with me. Okay,
Will do.
I'm gonna have to share that one. I'm gonna have to spread that one. I like that.
Let's go. Peace, family.
All right.
What's really good? It's your girl Mala Reigns, BX's own bad girl, and I'm chilling with the homie Walter. I know that shelf. You heard?